Good morning and welcome to the SSIS 23.4 Statewide Release Coffee Talk. My name is Ross Stack. I'm one of the e-learning instructional designers with the SSIS user support team. And we'll get started here with talking about what we're going to be talking about today. So our agenda, the presenters will present themselves or introduce themselves before they start their sections. So look forward to that. And for the agenda today, we have the welcome and introductions. We, of course, have that Tennyson warning because we are recording. We have our housekeeping. We have a thank you, mentor of the month. We're going to start in on the 23.4 release. We'll talk about intake purge update. And then, as always, stay tuned for the closing announcements. So without further ado, I'm going to go to the Tennyson warning, give you a chance to look this over because we are recording. We have to make sure that you understand that and know what to do and how to do it. So I'll give a minute here for you to read it over and we'll get started again in a couple. Hopefully that was enough time for you to read the Tennyson warning. Alex is on deck here to give a quick announcement, and then we'll move on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Coffee Talk today. I'm Alex Mentis, the SSIS manager at the Department of Human Services. I want to let everybody know that there is news media interest in the SSIS Coffee Talks. The Coffee Talks are public meetings, so this is just fine. I just want to let everybody know that. So that you're not sharing private data or anything like that. So thank you. Keep in mind that these are public meetings and they are recorded. Thanks, everyone.
Great, thanks, Alex. We'll move on to the housekeeping. So as always, attendees have been muted upon entry. To speak, please raise your hand using the reaction emoji at the bottom of your screen, and you'll be unmuted by the panelists. Questions can also be submitted using the chat feature, which will be monitored by SSIS Business Ops staff. Closed captioning can be enabled using the CC button located on the bottom left of your screen. And this screen is being, or the session, I'm sorry, is being recorded and will be posted on the Minnesota Child Welfare Training Academy website in the near future. A follow-up document will be prepared and distributed to attendees 7 to 10 days following the WebEx event. We want to give a huge thank you to the McLeod, St. Louis, and Pennington counties for piloting our SSIS version 23.4. The SSIS business section at DHS and our Minute partners welcome volunteers for upcoming SSIS pilots. Please contact Marcia at the email listed on this page if you are interested in assisting. Next is Mentor of the Month.
Hello, everybody. It's Alex again. I want to give a huge congratulations to Kelly Madsen from Min Prairie Health and Human Services. She is the Mentor of the Month. At a recent site visit that we did at Min Prairie, we were able to talk to some of her colleagues, and they just said so many glowing things about Kelly and her support for them in using SSIS. So here's just some words that people have shared about Kelly. Kelly Madsen is the SSIS superglue at Min Prairie County Alliance. Kelly trains new staff and is available for one-on-one support to seasoned SSIS workers who find themselves unsure of how to enter things or what to do when they get kicked out of their session. On a recent site visit by SSIS management, Kelly's colleagues called her Superwoman and sang her praises loudly. That's very true. Our SSIS help desk lead, Shauna Myers, says she is one of the mentors that when an email is received, I know I'm going to have work to do. Parentheses, not something simple. Kelly is also an account clerk, so has gracefully juggled SSIS expertise with running fiscal reports and correcting claim errors. Kelly is a familiar face at SSIS performance and stability work groups and the Tier 2 check-in calls. Thank you, Kelly, for all your hard work and your support of SSIS users. We rely so much on mentors like you, and we can't thank your contributions enough. If anybody out there has a special SSIS coordinator or mentor that you would like to see recognized at an upcoming coffee talk, please send a nomination to Heidi Morris, along with a brief message on why you think they should be the next mentor of the month. Congratulations, Kelly. Thank you.
Way to go, Kelly. Okay, well, we're about ready to get going into the release. So get ready, get set, let's go.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Anna Chalupka, and I am a trainer with the Department of Human Services SSIS User Support Unit, and I am going to talk about adult protection changes. So on this slide, it's regarding the interventions tab. Hovering over an intervention in the interventions tab will now display the description of the intervention. As you can see on the slide, I have a couple of examples. For the addiction assessment, treatment, or counseling, we have I included a description for that intervention. And then another example is the education and support. And this is what that description looks like in our SSIS. Next slide. Okay, another change is about printing the VA maltreatment with a reporter and without a reporter. Now in section C, section H, I, and J are updated to display each participant only once with all the participants' addresses under their name. And lastly, the third change is regarding the initial disposition exceeding 5 business days general report. Now the report correctly excludes maltreatment reports submitted to the Agency for Emergency Protective Services only. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. This is Marcia, the SSIS Change and Engagement Consultant with SSIS Business Operations, and I am going to kind of be peppered throughout this, our presentation today, so I'll kind of be in and out. So the first information that I want to present is on security and passwords. So many of you are aware there have been some connection errors related to password changes. So these have been resolved. For a while now, there's been frustrating connection type issues related to changing passwords. And so with this release, these two specific connection issues are resolved. If SSIS goes idle after a password change, SSIS will now reconnect without those errors. And users will now continue to be logged on rather than getting logged out of SSIS or disconnected, which sounds like was happening periodically as well. So if you have workers still experiencing connection issues directly after a password change, again, after the statewide release, which is Wednesday evening, please be sure to notify the help desk. Next slide. There's a new warning message associated to the race screen. So on the slide here, you see our race screen information. It has been added and will display when workers select unable to determine abandoned child. So this is meant as a reminder to not select the unable to determine abandoned child for adult clients, especially those who only have adult protective services work groups, since adult protection services collects race information, but would not expect to see this as a race option for their clients. So that information would cause errors on their side. There is a defect that was found on this screen during pilot. The race, where you see up in the little screenshot there, up in the upper left corner, the race, which is blue hyperlinked on the screen link, is not pulling up the intended help text. So we hope to have that corrected in the coming release. Not this release, but in a coming release, I'm sorry about that. To help remind staff of what the help text usually says there, I have added the information to our next slide. Do you want to go to the next slide there, Ross. So reminders on the race screen entries. So race screen help text indicates that workers should enter all race information as reported by the client. If the client is a child, include the race information as reported by the child, parent, and or legal guardian. A person's race is determined by how they define themselves. In case of a young child, a parent or legal guardian determines the race of the child. The agency may not determine the child's race. Remember to select all races that are reported. As a reminder, Hispanic heritage is reported as an ethnicity on the person screen, so it's not going to be found under the race entries. And so on the slide, this is what would usually show up on your help text. So it would tell you, give you some examples of when should you be using the unable to determine abandoned child, when do you use unknown or declined. Next slide.
Hey everyone, this is Erica Jepson, and I am a child welfare subject matter expert with the SSIS Business Ops, and I will be going over this document as well as some prevention services items later in the coffee talk. This is a new document that is in this 23.4 release. It is titled Summary of Support and Services for Children to Return Home. The Office of Legislative Auditor released an evaluation report on child protection removals and reunifications in June of 2022. A key recommendation was that the legislature directs county child protection agencies to provide a short, easy to understand summary document for parents explaining steps they should take to pursue reunification with their children. As a result, this is a document added to the placement category. It can be found in the chronology folder under document. Workers have the option to provide this to parents to help in supporting reunification to be used in conjunction with the out-of-home placement plan. Just a reminder to attach the local agency header from the RTF document template header screen to this new document after the statewide release. Next slide.
Oops, that's me. All right. RTF document template headers has a new menu option for deleting a local agency created RTF document header. The delete menu option is enabled for headers that are not linked to a state document in the checkbox list. So remember, this is the RTF document template headers. I think we sometimes get those mixed up with the document template editor screen, which is a different set of headers. So the RTF document template headers, you can go in now and actually delete those things as long as they're no longer attached to one of the checkboxes listed, so one of the actual documents. So there is a known defect on this, which we're working to fix in a future release, but an error message may display when trying to delete a newly created header. So if you create it, after this release, you create a new header, you attach it to a state document, you generate that document in a work group with that header, and then you go back and try to remove it, even though you uncheck the associated templates on the RTF document template header page. When that happens, you'll get an error and it won't let you actually delete that. So just an FYI, there isn't a workaround for this at this time. However, we hope to have that corrected in a future release. However, this is still really useful for those of us who have been asking for this for a while. If you've created a lot of headers over time that you're no longer using, this is a great time to get rid of all of those. So even if you had previously generated that, as long as you unassociate it in the little check boxes on the document template header, now you are able to get that cleaned up. So it's a little less confusing for your agency. So hopefully that's of some help, and we'll let you know when the other piece is fixed so that any new headers that you create that you're trying to delete, we'll let you know when those can also be deleted. So next slide, please. Document template editor. So again, now we're switching gears here. We're in the document template editor. So for those agencies that create local agency document templates using the document template editor, a new merge set is now available. So the calculated ICWA determination is now an available merge that pulls information from the participant's ICWA eligibility determination record. So you can find the field available when you're adding an element under the work group and then expanding. So you'll see in the little screenshots at the top, you expand the plus participant, expand the plus ICWA eligibility determination, and then that brings you to the calculated ICWA determination. So that can now be pulled in if you have some documents that you're like that information on, or letters or checklists, those kinds of things. In addition, on the bottom section of the slide, in addition, with the changes, this release to service plans, under template properties, when type is the service plan, the format field now includes options for in-home service plan and minor parent assessment and service plan. Next slide.
All right, Erica back. All right, with this release, we have a new service plan in SSIS. This new in-home service plan is a family service plan that will take the place of the existing child protective service plan and family assessment service plan for in-home child protection case management. This plan is under the template name as in-home service plan. This plan will be used for families who are utilizing prevention services as part of the Family First Prevention Services Act. If a family is being provided prevention services as part of FFPSA, the services outlined in the plan must be child-specific. The child-specific plan for FFPSA is embedded within this in-home service plan. The in-home family support plan should not be used when a child is placed in foster care, in which case an out-of-home placement plan must be used. Following the statewide release on Wednesday, the Child Protective Service Plan and Family Assessment Service Plan will no longer be available in the document template list, but they will still be editable if they are not activated, but were created prior to the release. Replaced with these plans will be replaced with the in-home service plan. Both existing service plans can be copied forward to the new in-home service plan. As always, be sure to review and update all fields copied to ensure they match what is needed in the new plan. Note that the Family and Service Assessment Service Plan will only copy forward the plan dates, signature names, and risk fields. So there's very little in that plan that will copy forward. Help text is provided throughout the document in the setup menu as well as each screen. And the help text provides guidance on how to fill out each section. There is a job aid that can be found on the SSIS worker documentation page and a tutorial page that can be found on PartnerLink. Marcia has put those links into the chat, and then the following slides will just highlight some of the changes in the service plan. Next slide. So you'll find some changes to the setup screen. With the newly designed setup screen, caseworkers will have additional selections to comply with federal mandates. Caseworkers will select if a service plan meets CWTCM requirements for a child, if the plan includes a plan of safe care for an infant, and if the plan includes prevention services under Family First Prevention Services Act. The new in-home family support plan may be designated as the CWTCM plan if it addresses each eligible child specifically and services to provide to each child. This means that workers will not be required to complete a separate CWTCM plan if all requirements are completed within the new in-home family support plan. A plan of safe care is required for all infants born with prenatal exposure to substance use that is reported to child protection. A plan of safe care includes a written service plan and safety plan focused on the infant, siblings, affected caregiver, and father. Whenever possible, the plan is to be completed prior to birth, prior to the hospital discharge, or within 30 days if a report is received post-discharge. The Family Protection Family Support Plan, or the Child Protection Family Support Plan, has also been updated to reflect requirements for prevention services as part of FFPSA. If family is being provided prevention services, which currently includes motivational interviewing and parents as teachers, the services must be selected in the setup screen and reflected within the goals and services of the in-home family support plan. And for additional information for each of these items, you can find the additional resources provided on this slide. Next slide. In the setup menu under participants, you will find some one new change is that workers will need to check the box next to each child related to the service plan. And if applicable, workers can add the child's phone and email into the client folder prior to starting the service plan, so those can be pulled into the plan. Workers will also choose the most recent ICWA eligibility determination from the drop-down menu. Of course, to ensure accurate information, be sure to have the ICWA eligibility determination completed. Next slide. Also for the parents and guardians section of the service plan, workers will need to check the box next to each parent guardian related to the service plan, and they should also add their address, phone, and email address prior to starting the service plan, as those will also pull in now. Next slide. With the new plan, there's a spot to add family supports to the plan, as well as caseworkers. Add family support and/or caseworkers by clicking on the green plus button and typing in their names, phone numbers, and email addresses. Just a reminder, workers should identify non-custodial parents, relatives, friends, neighbors, kin, and other individuals the family trusts to provide support early on. Focusing on relative and kin who can provide additional support for the family provides an opportunity for the caseworker to understand the family better and help them feel less isolated during and after the child protection process. Also, when applicable, identify tribes and kin early on and engage tribal representative. Caseworkers should build upon family supports grounded in race, culture, and ethnicity. These individuals may also support the family after child protection services has ended. Next slide. Okay, one of the goals in updating the in-home child protective service plan was to improve consistency and strengthen the plans developed between caseworkers and families. Caseworkers and supervisors will notice several changes in the goals and services section of the in-home family service support plan. Minnesota Rule 9560.0228 requires a child protection service plan to include achievable goals and specific services expected to improve the conditions that present harm to children. One of the goals in updating the in-home child protection service plan was to enhance consistency and strengthen the plans developed between caseworkers and families. The goals and services section is separated into two narrative boxes, one for family and one for children. Goals should be developed in partnership with the family and be SMART, which means specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time limited. They should be family-centered and written in the family's own language. Goals should be related to child safety and build upon a family's cultural strengths and supports. Next slide. You will also find a separate goals section for child-specific goals, which is a requirement of FFPSA prevention services, as well as CWTCM. Caseworkers should complete an overall assessment of a child's well-being by talking directly with the child, the family, and/or service providers. There may be time that a child has additional needs, which a family may need support with. These needs may be unrelated to the child's safety concerns as outlined in the safety goal. It is important for services to be offered for any unmet well-being needs, although these needs may not be reason for a child protection case to remain open or prevent case closing. Caseworkers may address any additional child-specific goal in this section if they are not addressed in the family section. When necessary, caseworkers can address related CWTCM child-specific goals here. So that is it for our changes to our in-home service plan. The next couple slides will address some prevention services. FFPSA prevention services is starting to roll out in 23.4 with prevention services security functions, foster care candidacy and prevention services eligibility determination screens, and sub-services codes. These items needed to be in SSIS, so claiming could be built into SSIS. Prevention service claiming will come with a future release. The next couple slides will go over the changes in SSIS for prevention services. However, there will be further training before workers should begin using them. Policy will be providing further direction on when and how to start using these screens, functions, and codes. There's two new security functions that are in SSIS related to prevention services. One is approved foster care candidacy. It is assigned to the agency's foster care candidacy specialist. who is the 4E designee who's responsible for approving the DHS 5410 foster care candidacy forms. This function will give them the ability to approve or deny foster care candidacy. And the other function is the Prevention Services Foster Care Candidacy, which is assigned to chosen agency staff after they have completed the required prevention services training, which is yet to come. Users with this function will be able to create and enter information on the prevention services and foster care candidacy screens. Again, this training for certification is still in the works, and further information will be coming on when and how to start using these functions. Next slide. Okay, the prevention services and foster care candidacy eligibility screens are new screens and required to document that the child or youth is eligible to receive prevention services or is a candidate for foster care entry, and document the services that will be provided to them to prevent foster care entry or re-entry. This folder is to determine eligibility only. As already stated, further training will be scheduled and policy will give direction on when to start using this. Until that direction is given, agencies should continue to use DHS 5410 foster care candidacy determination form and manually claim for foster care candidacy. Next question.
Erica,
Yes.
we have a question. We're going to jump back just a little bit to your to the plan, the in-home
Okay.
services plan. So Terry is asking, can a practice plan be created? The social workers are wondering, also, is the plan good for 3 months?
The plan is good for 3 months. Yes, the same, the requirements for the time length of the case plans has not changed. They're still required within the 30 days of case management opening, and they're still good for every 3 months. As far as a practice plan be created, I'm not really sure what that means.
Yeah, Terry, I believe the plan would need to go under a work group and under a person. You could certainly create one and delete one, right?
Yep.
Would that make sense, Erica? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers. Let me know if you have further questions, Terry. Thanks.
As an example, as the social workers would like to know what is being looked for. Sorry, Terry, I'm still not sure what you mean. If you have further questions, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I did have the introduction and tutorial, which gives some information as well as the job aid. So I'm not sure if you've taken a look at those yet. Those links are on the chat, and they have some information on what goes where, what kind of information that might be helpful.
Okay. We are on the programs and services, 103 prevention services. So these are just a couple new service codes that are available for time note service arrangements and payments. Service 103 is prevention services with county subservices of 400 for motivational interviewing, 401 is parents as teachers, and 405 for prevention services allocation. Again, these will now appear, but they are not intended for use until relative prevention services eligibility train has been completed. So we will provide further direction on when and how to start using these codes. And then finally, another code that will appear is the County Service Code of 400 now appears for time notes as an option when Service 193 General Case Management has been chosen. Before using it, the required MI training must be completed and a child must be found eligible for prevention services. Again, claiming for prevention services will be coming in future release, and policy will provide further direction on when and how to start using these codes. Next slide.
We have another question.
I'm not sure. Joanne's asking, will 103 appear in all program codes or just CP? Sam, maybe you know that? Is Sam on here?
Yeah, I'm on here. Yep. I think it will appear in all program areas, but we're still working out the claiming part of that. So it will need to be like a child protection case management work group. But yeah, we'll come out with more detail in all of that.
Thanks, Sam. That's all for me. On to Marcia. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about QRTP extended placement reviews, so also called EPRs. The calculation. So we've had some updates to our calculation again. So the QRTP extended placement reviews now are considering the out-of-state facilities, so OSF, and tribally licensed or approved, so TR, manually entered licenses when calculating review periods. So that was a problem before where it wasn't looking at those manually OSF or TR entered licenses to calculate within the review periods when those were occurring. So there are a couple of defects still related to this that you can find on the following slide and also in the known defects document posted on the release notes page. You want to go to the next slide? So while the bulk of the QRTP EPR calculations are working correctly, there are a few of the more obscure situations that do still have defects currently listed in the known defects document. So I listed them here. Please be sure to review these on the known defects report, which also includes workarounds for these specific situations. So one of them, there's a defect that impacts the BizOrgs that may have both a manually entered OSF or TR license and a Lindex link added for the same BizOrg. So that causes an issue with the calculation, as well as another issue is occurring if you have a manually entered OSF or TR license and it's changed from granted to another status option. So like if you change it from granted to close, right now that causes a problem with the calculating that initial EPR, or I'm sorry, after it was used for calculating an initial EPR timeline. So then you maybe close that. And the child's due for a subsequent EPR, then that's when it causes issues. So on that subsequent EPR. So the first one works, then the second one, something was changed. This can cause errors in the calculation and may also cause a CFC report to fail to generate. So want to make sure that you're aware of that. Be also aware that in the known defects report for these, there are workarounds for each one of these situations if you do encounter them. So they're more obscure, they don't happen that often, but we do have a workaround for each one of these. So take a look at that. And then that third one is there's an incorrect EPR calculation result that can be received when only payments for the placement BizOrg have a Title 4E subcode that is not certified for QRTP. So the function that calculates the EPR timelines for the EPR button and for claiming is incorrectly including those placement days in the EPR timeline. So for this one, it's not going to cause your EPR due date to be late or missed, but it could cause you to calculate that EPR date sooner than you would usually expect. Again, have the workarounds for each of these listed in the known defects document. So take a look at that. Next slide. A correction to the county settings under the Service Details tab for Service 127 Kinship Navigator has been included in the 23.4 release. So this service was previously added as a placeholder for future use, and at this time it continues to be just that, and it's unavailable for use. So the vendor provided setting is no, staff provided setting is no, and county may override is set to no. So there was a problem before where these were set incorrectly, and so that has just been corrected. Next slide. So 2 new county subservices, both state owned, will be available as of January 1st, 2024 with Service 401, Information and Referral. So that's under mental health, the 400s, right? The 2 new county subservices are 402, Adult Mental Health Initiative Fiscal Host Fee, and 403, Community Support Program Fiscal Host Fee. So reminder, you will not see these available for use until January 1st, 2024, right? So when you log on Thursday, although they'll be available if you go to look under programs and services, they're not going to be available for use on payments quite yet. And also, to use this service on payments in SSIS, your county settings tab must reflect Service 401 as vendor provided equals yes in SSIS admin. So make sure that if you're going to be using that, that you have that set that way. Next slide, please. 2 new HICPIC and modifier combinations are now available under Service 541 with the DD waiver. They are T2029UB and T2029UD and can be used on payments dated 7/1/2023 or later. So these are in the not automated claim category. That means that they must be manually billed outside of SSIS using minutes. Payments using these HICPICs and modifiers will display on the general report found under Tools, General Reports, Healthcare Claims folder, under Payments Not Automated, Potentially Billable. Next slide. So there's a new state-owned county subservice, 404 Adult Protection, and it will be available January 1st, 2024 for the 33 services in the 600 series that are listed on the slide. I'm not going to read those. This new state-owned county subservice was added for activities conducted under Program 610 Adult Protection for authority under Minnesota Statute 626.557 in response to adults referred by the Common Entry Point, the MARC, and requests for emergency protective services received from DHS or MDH in their roles as lead investigative agencies. Additional information regarding the use of the subservice code will be provided to counties in a future communication. So we're happy to have also with us today as a panelist is Melissa Bongzi, our APS policy consultant. Anything that you want to add here, Melissa? Did I miss anything?
Nope. You covered everything, and as like Marcia said, we will be providing future communication on the use of the subservice code.
Perfect, thanks. Next slide. All right, thank you. Service 604, Adult Protection Investigation and Service Response. For VADD TCM healthcare claiming, claimable activities, client contact and collateral contact. This ends 12/31/2023, so the end of this year, for the following HICPIC modifiers. So T2023U1, which is VADD TCM for face-to-face, and T2023U1U4, which is VADD TCM telephone. So these are being ended because investigation activities defined under Service 604 are not authorized in the state plan under Title 19 of the Social Security Act for VADD TCM. Service response activities conducted under Minnesota Statute 626.557 during an open adult protective services assessment for adults eligible for VADD TCM should be entered under Service 693, which is the 693 General Case Management Code. Any questions? All right, let's move on. Oops, I think I just lost my slide. 35, we are. Existing service. So Service 102, Community Education and Prevention Service Description has changed to Community Education. That starts 7/1/2023. And really, this was simply a change to avoid confusion with the new additions of Prevention Services 103. That service description and title. So it's just a change on the title. It's not a change for when you use it, really just to avoid prevention services wording confusion. Next slide. When a subservice, so we're looking at the county subservice field here. I have a screenshot. When a subservice is selected in the county subservice field on payments and service arrangements or time records, and really wherever they display, Both the number and the text description now display in the field instead of just the number. So we had a defect for a while where I believe you were just seeing the number. You weren't seeing that whole description that you can see there I have highlighted. So now both are displaying. Remember the toggle button. So I have that highlighted. It looks like a little hash mark sign with an A. The toggle button seen here can be used to toggle back and forth between what is displayed first in the program service county subservice fields. So the number or description can be set to display. So here I have the description set to display before the numbers, as you can see in the completed program and service fields. So you can see those fields, they have the description, then the number. If I wanted to switch that, it's really whatever your preference is. You just have to click on the little button. So of note, at this time, the subservices do not necessarily show defaulted to sort in numeric order in that drop down for the little grid under the county subservice field. This is something that we're still trying to resolve. You can currently manually click the grid headers to have them sort if needed. So if I clicked within that little mini grid there on the drop down, if I click on county subservice number, it's going to sort them by number. But they're not automatically defaulting to sorted by number. Next slide. I think this is you, Sam.
Yep, thanks, Marcia. This is Sam Breidenbach, fiscal subject matter expert with SSIS Business Operations. I will go over our fiscal release information, starting with some child foster care report changes. With proofing message 1289 on the child foster care report, this now checks for the facility's certification end date. This is found on the service provided column in the Title IV-E group provider search. You can search by facility name, license number, 4E subcode, and/or rule code. When you find the facility in the search, you can click on it and the rate record grid will display certifications for the facility along with the rate effective and rate expiration date. The service provided column will list if the facility is certified for any of the specialized settings of QRTP, STY, SIL, or PPY. This proofing message is checking if days 15 plus are claimable for the placement. These days are only claimable if the facility is FFPSA certified on or before the payment service start date and through the payment service end date for the service provided. And some more child foster care report changes on the child foster care report out of state facility or license type OSF and tribally licensed or license type TR are now included in checks for valid licenses for FFPSA group provider payments when validating the claim. This impacts the number of proofing messages on the child foster care report. So we have listed out all of the proofing message numbers and the short message descriptions on which these checks will apply to. OSF and TR licenses are manually entered rather than pulled into the BizOrg through Lindex. We also included a link to the full detail for the child foster care report proofing messages list on the bottom right-hand side of this slide. This can also be found on the SSIS fiscal documentation page under the state reports section. And on the child foster care report, a new QRTP and SILS warning message number 1294 has been added. This warning checks for the facility license number and 4E subcode on the Title IV-E group provider search. It is checking the facility certification and the certification dates for the first 14 days of the placement and will only display when another 4E subcode for the same license number is certified and the subcode currently selected on the payment is not certified. An example of this is shown with the short and long description displayed in the help text. The second screenshot shows the 4E subcode dropdown from the payment screen. This is an example of one license having multiple 4E subcodes listed that may not all be certified on the service provided column found on the Title IV-E group provider search. And moving to healthcare claiming now. Interactive video will now claim as a CWTCM phone contact when used in conjunction with Activity 15, CWTCM eligible contact 60 plus miles from county border. The workaround was previously to record interactive video as a telephone contact in order to allow it to claim with HCPC modifier combination T2023U3U4. A telephone claim will now generate when using interactive video as the contact method with Activity 15 in SSIS. And we have some FMAP changes, which are federal medical assistance percentage rates. These are effective for 10/1/23 through 12/31/23 for quarter 4 here, and state FMAP is 52.99% total. The final public health emergency, or PHE, increase of 1.5% will end on December 31st, 2023. Beginning on January 1st, 2024, the base FMAP rate will apply without a PHE increase to the percentage points. So the state total FMAP rate is 52.99%. Tribal FMAP rate is 84.5% through December 31st, 2023. And this was not release dependent work, but it was deployed with the 23.4 statewide release due to the timing of the data received from MMIS. So we do have some ICD-10 diagnosis code changes. These changes were effective on 10/1/23, and they follow the annual upload process of MMIS making these changes and testing them. Then we push these codes to SSIS. A summary of the changes are listed on this slide, and the link provided to CMS has a data conversion table that you can use to see all of the 2024 changes, what the old codes were prior to CMS fiscal year 2024, and the new ones to use starting on 10/1/23. This was just a small change on this one. This is found in SSIS admin. Interface settings was a disabled menu option that appeared in the SSIS admin application under tools. This has now been removed from the tools menu, so it does not appear at all. And a couple of SEGR changes. BRAS 419 was added to SSIS on January 1st, 2022. It was reported by an agency that the SEGR units on payments were not converting to be reported correctly on SEGR. SEGR unit conversions have now been applied. Payments will now convert the correct number of units on payments to the SEGR report rather than just reporting the payment amount. And the second change we have is on the SEGR report under the revenues tab for state revenues. Revenue code S02 is now unlocked for agency use. Agencies can edit both the amount and the description on the SEGR report under the Revenues tab, State Revenues, revenue code S02. The description will show as other, but it can be typed over or changed to the description desired. And that's all I have, so I think it's back to you, Marcia.
Great, thanks. So another update that we have has to do with intake purge. So version 23.4 is going to include updates for intake purge. Rather than reverting some intakes back to the intakes needing action log for a manual purge by agencies, these are now going to be purged when the associated work group is purged. So going forward, that's going to be included in the release where that's just going to be part of the automated process. So yay, that'll make those of you who have been keeping those intakes needing action logs cleaned up, it should make your jobs a little easier. While we were able to do that going forward, that does still leave some cleanup for those of agencies who haven't been kind of staying up on that, keeping those taken care of. So the cleanup communications are planned for the coming weeks. So you'll get a email from me. It'll be your mentor, whoever we have listed, mentor coordinators who we have listed for your agency. I'm going to be asking for permission to delete intakes. So I'm going to send you a list of the intakes that we believe should be deleted because they are, I should say purged, right? Because they were associated to something that was purged and they just reverted back, as has been the process for a while now, to the intakes needing action log. So if they were related to, if they were associated to something that's already been purged, we're going to have that query. We're going to send you out a list and ask you for your permission for us to do a data fix to take care of those. And so we will end up purging those. These communications will include that list. Please make sure that you're responding timely. It'll be a project hopefully we can get done within a few weeks. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have those all cleaned up. And then going forward, it should be a little easier for everyone. Another reminder is ensure that your agency has your purge day set in SSIS admin under County Preferences General tab. So contact the SSIS help desk if you need assistance or have questions, but really want to remind everyone, if you don't already have that set, then regardless of what work that we're going to do, purge isn't going to happen, right? So it's all based on when you have your purge day set. It should be set up and being run monthly. So there's not really any work from you that you have to do there. You just have to set that purge day. Remember, One of the reasons that's really important is some program types, such as APS, require that items be retained for a limited time. So there is a max retention, and then they have to be purged. So you need to make sure that that purge day is set. So you can check the retention schedule in admin under county preferences to see which items should be purged when. But ultimately, if you have your purge day set, that's an automated process. And now that will include intakes as well. If your agency is not running purge because the purge day is not set, make sure that you're talking about that, getting that set, and sending us questions at the help desk. If you have some questions, you want to talk about it, I can certainly walk you through what's needed for that. And that's all I have. You want to move on to the next one?
All right. Well, thanks to all the presenters today. Awesome job by all. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming coffee talks. So December is our next coffee talk. We'll be discussing our SSIS year in review. We'll be discussing some work that we have already done on enhancements. And then in January, our next open discussion for these, we will need your questions. You can send those into Heidi as well anytime, and we will compile and present in January. Heidi will be sending out a mentor blast closer to the date of the event, asking for questions again. So hope to get some of those questions so we can have a great January open discussion. And with that, I want to thank you all for coming and listening and learning more about the release, and stay golden, Minnesota. Radio Ross out.